This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unified Purpose. You guys know what we do in this podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about stories of resilience, of great community spirit, compassion, and inspire you with all of these amazing tales. Your host is me, Daniela, and I'm Penji's Partnership Coordinator. Today we have a very special guest, Chris Davis. I'm about to say Chris Evans. Chris Davis from We Love Philly. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
It's going great. Thank you for being on the podcast. I almost called you Chris Evans because every time I read Chris, my name goes to Chris Evans from Captain America. I have to stop.
That's perfectly fine. I'll take that.
Yeah, it's a cool association to make. But thank you so much for being on the podcast, Chris.
Yeah, of course.
And to get us started, I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, what we got to know about you, about We Love Philly, and the whole thing.
Yeah, so my name's Chris. I am a director of business development for We Love Philly. We Love Philly is a nonprofit based in West Philadelphia, and we basically help kids, young people specifically in high school, with digital marketing programs and cybersecurity programs. So basically trying to get them a living wage so that they don't get riddled with debt, trying to go to college and all that kind of stuff. So I've been here for about 3 years now and have just been working on trying to grow our agency services and just like help our young people kind of navigate through life, as we all know can be really difficult. So it's kind of like the goal here.
That's amazing. Especially I think with like the growing changes that happen with, I think, I guess like policy changes, all of the stuff that happens with government stuff. I think a lot of these people need a lot more help now more than ever.
Yeah, no, 100% agree.
Yeah. So I know that you guys at We Love Philly emphasize a lot of like mindfulness, a lot of entrepreneurship, and you guys do a lot of, I guess, holistic education. How do you see all of these things actually shaping the future of the youth being developed in all of these urban settings?
Yeah, I think it's like very difficult in a typical education sense. Like a lot of students, that's why they don't kind of succeed, is just because the typical classroom experience isn't made for every student. We're all different. Not everyone can thrive in the same environment as someone else. So I think taking this holistic approach is great for not just like certain students, but I think all students don't get that in school. So by like putting that component to like what they're going through at home and also like keeping everything, I think it just gives us like more able to like control more things and just have like a lot more impact in like their lives versus just kind of having them come to school and parents not really doing enough, and then like the schools aren't doing enough, and then it kind of ends up being a whole mess. So I think by having them here and like really going through a lot of this trauma healing and things like that, you get down to like the root cause of a lot of issues that school just kind of puts a band-aid on and really doesn't fix. Nor do they really care to fix it. So I think that's, the whole thing here is that we actually really care about our students and want them to be, full human beings, not just, good in one area, but also good inside and with themselves.
Yeah, no, I actually really value the work that you're doing, especially with like non-traditional learning paths. I grew up with raging ADHD. I got diagnosed, I think, when I was super young. And I think like a huge thing for me in school, like when I was a student, it was always the fact that I didn't necessarily learn with traditional learning methods the way that other kids did. And I feel like at the time there weren't that many programs, I guess, for those things. And also, I think people had a very sort of surface level idea of what being with ADHD was, because like you usually go to things like, boy who's like loud in the middle of the classroom. displays in so many different ways. And I think a lot of programs like this can really help to sort of work around a person's brain instead of against it. Because I think people don't realize how deeply it affects you, because you're just kind of like, if you're living in a system that is not built for you, you're kind of just collecting failures throughout your life
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
wondering why nothing works out for you.
Yep. And they're all just reinforced. So then, like, it just doesn't, you end up feeling worse about yourself, and it gets everything just harder and harder. And it's not good.
Yeah, it is. So
Yeah.
I think like that's amazing. To
Yeah.
all of the young individuals that are actually looking to acquire skills outside of
Yeah.
conventional education systems, what is the recommendation that you have for them to sort of even start to carve out these paths?
Yeah, I'd say like kind of just look for different like workforce development programs in the respective cities. So if you're in Philadelphia, like, there's a ton here. But like we're really trying to create these apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships in like situations that they're typically not existing. So like the common apprenticeship program is going to be in a construction kind of field. That's like the typical, like it's construction, anything like union based. So it's all very like hands-on kind of stuff, or like electricians, which is great, like the trades. But there's just not enough emphasis on other really high paying industries like artificial intelligence, digital marketing, cybersecurity. And these are all things that are just growing at rapid paces just because technology is increasing and people's like protection needs to be higher. So, these are all fields that are really growing in the future, and young people are more than capable of being able to handle these kind of jobs. So I think just looking for those kind of jobs that are just growing, and you can kind of look at the trajectory of certain like salaries on these jobs and like the demand. So like the supply and demand is there. So I'd say trying to looking for those kind of opportunities of any type of workforce development programs that teach those skills, and then just using your own kind of education to kind of build those up and make them stronger.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think like a lot of I guess like applicable skills are also kind of
yeah,
like overlooked.
yeah,
Do you find that a lot of young people feel that they reject a lot of certain, I guess, jobs or career paths because they don't necessarily look like what is set out to be the one to be successful? Because I feel like that was kind of like a reality for teenagers of my
yeah,
time. When we were graduating high school, like probably not all of us were meant for
yeah,
college. Maybe some were, some weren't. Some people didn't even know what they wanted to do, but I think there was this sort of unanimous thought that everyone
yeah,
was going to college. Nobody really questioned whether they wanted to or not. And the
yeah,
person who didn't was considered to be a loser, right?
yeah,
Like you're going to do nothing. And
yeah,
the best jobs would come from like going to go to college, get college degrees, even though maybe that kind of education wasn't fit.
yeah,
And I think mindset probably affected a lot of teens at that time from being able to sort of break free from that and maybe make choices that were a little bit more adequate towards their own perspective, lives. Yeah.
yeah. And I would agree to that too. Like I feel like even when I was in school, like a lot of people were just like 100% like you had to go to college. Like no one didn't go to college. That was like the only thing to do. So like people were looked down. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be though. I
No,
feel
yeah.
like now, yeah, like it's way more accepted. And I think that, just looking at how much it is for college, like it's starting to become, I think the new generation was able to see my generation and look at like, wow, a lot of them are struggling. They all went to college. It didn't pay off for them. Barely paid off for the generation before them. So it's continuously giving less and like diminishing returns. So just logically, it just makes sense for you like to not go down the same path that the people before you did, and have that same outcome. So yeah, a lot of them are learning that like you don't have to go to school. There are other options, and it's like a lot of them can't afford it. So it just makes more financial sense to just like kind of go around that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like with I guess like you said, pricing is a huge
Yeah,
problem. I feel like I've also noticed that with like generations now, um, I noticed a change where like people who find more success are the most entrepreneurial ones, and the ones that are sort of like not getting necessarily hired by third parties, but the ones that
yeah,
are sort of starting their own, which is a really interesting shift from I think what we have been, I guess, drilled in what we've been having drilled
yeah,
in our brain, just kind of just like work for this big place and then grow there, and then you'll eventually do a really good job.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. I think people are just starting to see the shift, and entrepreneurship too is another like level I've seen a lot of younger people starting to gear towards, just because a lot of the things that you can start a business or do yourself is just like right in your cell phone and pocket, and the young people are just great at doing that kind of stuff. So that's why we also try to come up with programs that like kind of meet them in the middle of something that they're already familiar with, and then just kind of hone those skills, versus like trying to teach them something completely brand new that might be a little bit much for them. It's like, hey, let's start at where they're at and kind of go from there.
So, Chris, I want to ask you this, and this is purely from empirical research made by me. So this
Yeah.
is not actual data, but I
Yeah.
feel like younger people are a lot more negative. I feel like the generation right now is very, I guess, like I see a lot more patterns of people being depressed. A lot of like the younger generations don't have a lot of hope for the future. I see a lot more like cynicism. People just feel a lot of frustration with just a lot of things. And I think that it really affects how they approach the world, because they are in a very bad headspace of thinking like that everything is worthless and nothing is going to like mean anything in the end. So like, why? And I think that's probably something that really affects the youth now, because you need people who are optimistic, even in the
Yeah.
worst case scenarios, to sort of move the world forward. That's how it's always been, right? But with people now who are very like, I guess, negative, I don't know if you come across this with, because you guys work a lot with young people.
Yeah.
And if you do, like, how do you sort of motivate them to sort of keep going and keep trying?
Yeah. I think it's all about how you teach, or how you kind of give or how you give feedback in general. Like, I feel like there's ways to give quick wins, and just really highlight everything you can that that person is doing right, instead of always kind of highlighting the things that they're doing wrong, and just giving them things that that they can accomplish, instead of like constantly giving things that like they might not, and then having them kind of struggle through and then feel as if they didn't really accomplish anything at the end if they don't finish it, or kind of move the goalpost on them. So I think it's all about just like how you're kind of reinforcing what they're doing. Um, I feel like a lot of people, not just young people, are just really like, there's with everything going on and just how everything is like turned out to be at this point of where we're at. Like, there's tons of reasons to be like sad and
Yeah.
not really be hopeful. But I think even in the face of all that, there is tons of positivity and people that still are like looking hopeful for the future. And I think young people kind of lead a lot of that when it comes to like standing up for what's right and things like that, or like really caring about the companies they buy from and things like that, where it's like, I don't even look that deep into some of the stuff. And I feel like young people will like stop buying from a company if they don't share the same values as them. So I think it just depends on where you're looking. I think there are like pockets where there's tons of people that are, surrounded by people that think like that, because you are going to be an extension of who you are around most of the time. So that's why we try to create like a positive environment for them here, where they don't think like that, and they can kind of break out of those patterns that they usually fall into from like certain people they're hanging out with, or what they're usually involved in back home, and kind of break them out of that, because typical schools, you're going to be around that same kind of energy, so that's what you're going to pretty much push, and then that just spreads. um, yeah, it's really just, I think, trying to surround yourself with individuals that have that positive mindset and just like create more of that.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, I do think that the younger generation is very, I guess, like a key element into a lot of like future changes. Hopefully they're setting up something better for all of the younger kids that are now, just being born and growing up. And like you said, I do think that like younger people will look into a lot more like brand
Yeah.
values and alignments a lot more than I did, because I feel like growing up,
Yeah.
I never really thought about it. I was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
this
Exactly.
using it,
Yeah. Yeah, they will literally be like, "Oh, this company like doesn't support XYZ thing. Like, I'm not buying from them." Like, it's like
Yeah.
that easy. That's how it should be. Like, you should be, but like, I try and work on getting like better myself. But yeah, I feel like young people are really good at that.
Yeah, and actually, I wanted to ask, because I know that you guys have also worked a lot with partnerships
Yeah.
between you guys and businesses, like either local or something, to enhance the opportunities for and deserved youths.
Yeah.
What do you think these partnerships do to help out with the kids, or how are they doing?
Yeah, there's like I feel like there's like I'm not sure about every company, but there's always multiple ways to partner. I feel like whenever I meet a company or someone that is a big part or decision maker in a company, there's like so many paths to go down. Whether it comes to like sponsoring programming, like when it comes to nonprofits, like we always are in need of money, of course. So like any kind of sponsorship, whether it be time, treasure, talent, like whatever you're giving, is always helpful to the cause. The one thing we usually look for, or like the two main things, are like becoming a client of ours, so that we can like do our marketing. Our students, get time to work like with a client, and then we also get funded from that. And then B, becoming an employer partner, which is another huge component because we're in workforce development. So once we have a apprentice that kind of is ready to move on and they're vetted, they're good to go. We love to place them with another company so that they can get like more experience and keep honing their skills and meet more people and network. And then have like bigger resume builders. So a lot of times we're trying to create that pipeline of like, okay, cool. After they become a pre-apprentice, they become an apprentice with us for a year, and then after that, we're able to go to these 4 different companies depending on like who they like the most, or who has the need for it and can afford it, and then kind of have them hired through one of our employee partners. So that's like probably like the biggest ways that people like typically partner with us, or just host an event, and then like we kind of team up like that and like kind of co-host things or a
Yeah,
fundraiser. Yeah,
I think with nonprofit work, any kind of collaboration that you can do is always going to be
yeah,
helpful. Most of the time,
oh,
nonprofits are just
absolutely,
welcoming any kind of help,
yeah,
right?
no, for sure. Yeah, we'll take any we can get. Yeah,
um, Actually, I wanted to ask you because you guys are obviously, I mean, your name is Wheel of
yeah.
Philly. Obviously, this is very Philly focused. What would you say is the biggest misconception that people have about Philadelphia, about education in Philadelphia? How do you guys think that your program is helping with all that?
Yeah, I think like, and a lot of young people fall into the category just because like, trauma will do certain things to you. But like, I think a lot of people, especially people in Philly, which is like the sad part, is like they think Philly's like the worst place on earth. And I think, that gets kind of reinforced by what they show in the media, like on TV and things like that, of like, the worst things that happened this week. And of course, Philly's always at the top or whatever. Um, but like I think, just the other day I was looking at the No Kings protests that were going on and stuff like that, and like Philly was number one on the list. So I feel like there's always silver linings everywhere. I always try to find the beauty in things. So I feel like Philadelphia just has so much rich history. There's tons of things to do here. Like the place we're at right now is pretty much like an urban oasis with like a garden, animals, things like that you don't typically see in a city. And like no one will think about this place or like other places like it. So I think people usually get stuck into just like what they're used to, and if it's not good, everything's not good. So I think like exploring, getting outside of Philly, because I think once you start to leave Philly and see other cities, you start to see like what Philly has compared to other cities, and it's like, oh wow, well I guess we actually do have like good transportation, or we actually do have good this and that. So I think just like not being so down on our own city and actually having some pride. I think if it's not the Eagles, like people just don't have anything good to say about Philly, like main people being the ones that live here. So yeah, we're just trying to change that, especially in young people's eyes, and just like really have them proud and wanting to stay in Philly and give back to it, versus kind of like the first chance they get, they're out of here and they don't want to ever come back to Philly, and just like have no good things to say about it. So yeah, we're trying to change that mindset and perception, especially in young people's eyes.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I'm from El Salvador. I think we have like a similar problem because a lot of
yeah,
people kind of want to get out. And I
yeah,
think there's a lot of nonprofit work of like the same thing of just like trying to change that idea of, there's good things here too,
yeah.
and you find a place within your own community and the world that you're living in.
Absolutely, yeah. Like there's so much. Yeah, I feel like you could say that about any city of just like, the city's so bad. Like, oh, it's so like, but like the news is only going to show you the bad stuff. Like most of the
Yeah.
time, 'cause that's what gets clicks. So it's like sometimes you just have to go out your way to find like the nice stuff and just explore your own city.
The news right now are very sensationalized too, I think. I
Yeah, yeah,
I was watching this YouTube video the other day who was like, because I don't know if you noticed, this is kind of a tangent, but there's been a lot of news about plane crashes lately. Like
and
this
yeah,
year.
that's another thing. Yeah,
Yeah, like a lot of plane crashes. I think the last one that I saw was the one in India.
yeah,
Um, and they're always very tragic, right? Like they're very terrifying. And then people are like, is it safe to fly nowadays? And then I saw this guy who was talking about how like technically, like, there are obviously issues that can be pointed out, but also the news are literally just highlighting these plane crashes that are maybe
Exactly.
1 in a million,
Yeah,
so
like the
like,
numbers and stats really aren't much different. It's just now
yeah,
they're getting more coverage. So
yeah,
it's like that with so many things where it's like there's the same stuff happening every day. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but like you only know about it if the news talks about it.
yeah,
Yeah, is the way to
exactly.
say. Yep.
Yeah, unless you're like involved in the situation, unless it's in the
Exactly.
news, you're not going to find out about it. And like the thing is that now a lot of things get more coverage, and
Yep.
it makes sense. Like also, I think negative things tend to get more
Hmm.
coverage, positive,
Exactly.
which
Yep.
kind of gives you this feeling that everything is terrible.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just it's an like optical illusion kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
I also am really curious because I know that you
Mhm.
guys really focus on giving students real world experiences, real world stories, and all of that. But I can imagine that that probably takes a lot of. I mean, we touched on this a little bit earlier about
Yeah.
funding. Um, how do you guys actually work around the money and the needs of having sort of like a steady stream of income to help out all of these kids? And I think with approaches that are so, I guess, towards education that are so
Yeah.
different from the traditional norm, you probably need more funding because you also need to justify why you need more resources, different types of things, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, like so a lot of our funding we have different sources of funding. A majority of it being grants, a lot of city grants, not so much on the state level, but I think we have a couple. Yeah, a lot of it being state or city funded grants and foundations that support workforce development, um, education, like those kind of areas, or like health and wellness, anywhere in those buckets, because that's all the things that we do. And like technology, I think that's like a lot of our grants are just like very tech based, like growing industries. So yeah, a lot of our money has came from a lot of grants. We have an awesome grant writer um, that works with us that just fills out grants nonstop, and we end up just applying for a lot and luckily getting a lot. And then the other source of income we have is our earned revenue model. So we also do digital marketing services as an agency, and our young people are the ones behind the scenes on everything. So that's how our apprentices get most of their experience in like agency life. So that is like the other source of income that we are trying to grow now and just actually make more from that source because it's unrestricted and we can kind of put that money to wherever we want. Um, yeah, so that's like the main ways I would say that we get funding, and then the other ways like donations and things like that. But that's probably the smallest amount of donors. We have a good bit of supporters, but not enough to really like keep lights on and things like that. It's really you know um, pretty supplemental, but it definitely helps. But yeah, I'd say that's like the main buckets of funding that we have. A lot of it being like Philly foundations.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
And I do hope that you guys continue to do the work that you do for a long
thank you.
time. Um,
Yeah, I
I,
appreciate it.
with people who are listening, watching, whatever, interacting with this and have
Yeah.
either interest in joining, want to help out, whatever it is, where can they find you? I want to give you the space to tell them, like, where can they connect with you guys or try to work with you or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So we have an annual engagement form on our website, so weleftphilly.org. There's a form on there you could fill out and then pretty much select what you'd be interested in doing. We have a mentor program, so you can become a mentor. You can become a donor, a monthly donor if you'd want. If you're a business or own a business, we have an EITC program that we sign up businesses for, get a tax credit. So you can learn more about that as well. And then lastly, um, yeah, signing up to just be a volunteer at our events and things like that, or a partner if you have like an organization or a company that would want to just like sponsor or partner with us for an event. But yeah, like those are like the biggest ways to get involved. Anything helps. If you're able to offer time, money, or your expertise, we are greatly appreciative.
Awesome. Yeah, I will be adding the link to
Yeah,
the website on the description of this video so people can also find it.
thank you.
And we're almost at the end of the podcast, Chris, but I do have a set of rapid fire questions that I
Yeah,
want to ask you. So my colleague is from Philly and she sent
nice.
these to me. I am not
Okay.
from Philly. So I don't know the answers to them. So you
Okay.
can say
You find
anything
out.
and I won't know if it's wrong.
Okay, that's the best part. Awesome.
Yeah. So, first question. We'll just try to get through all of them really quickly.
Yeah,
First word that you think of when you hear Philadelphia?
John.
I think of like Philly cheesesteaks.
She
I
said,
know
yeah, I
it's
was gonna say that's probably second. She says definitely
yeah.
second.
What celebrity do you think of when you think of Philadelphia?
So I was gonna say Kevin Hart, but probably Will Smith, honestly. Like if like that was like the first person to pop in my head.
I had to look this up because I actually had no clue that Will Smith or Kevin Hart were from Philadelphia. So I
Yeah,
Googled it and I was like, wow, they're from Philadelphia.
yeah. We got some pretty big names here.
Next one, favorite cheesesteak spot.
I'm gonna go with Ishka Bibbles on South Street. Sounds crazy, I know.
If you say so, I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Check it
great.
out. Check it out when you're in
Yeah.
Philly.
What's one small business that you frequent the most here in Philly?
Good question. Hmm, I'm going to go and say, that's a good question because I go to a good bit. I think who like I go to the most. I am going to say I don't go to them a lot, but Veganish is like down the street from us. Um, and also Top Taste, they're a Jamaican spot like around the corner. So actually, I think I go to Top Taste a little bit more. Yeah, Top Taste is banging. They're like around the corner, Jamaican Caribbean food, so good,
I agree. So good. Um,
delicious.
if you were to change something about Philly, what would it be?
Mm. I would probably give a super huge upgrade to our public transportation SEPTA. I would definitely give it all the money it needs to run and upgrade efficiently. They're like in the middle of tons of budget cuts and things right now, so they're cutting lines and routes that people need to get to work, especially me. So yeah, I would give a huge upgrade to our public transportation.
I've heard that from my friend before too. So like,
Yeah,
yeah, let's fix
yeah,
the
it can
public
be so
transportation.
good. It's just they don't allow it to be.
And last question, what's your favorite neighborhood of Philly?
I'm gonna say West Philly. Not any specific like part, but like just West in general. Like it, I know like everyone when you hear West Philly, everyone thinks like Fresh Prince or something like that. But like I feel like if you're in Philly, everyone considers West Philly to be like the worst part or like the least thought of. When like I think it's awesome. It's walkable. All the public transportation that you need is here. The housing I feel like is considerably cheaper than a lot of other parts of Philly, and yeah, and it's near the suburbs. It's near like I feel like it's just near everything. It's perfect location.
Awesome. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much, Chris, for
for
all of the
sure.
information. If I ever am in Philadelphia, I will go check out all those spots that you mentioned.
Yes, I'm gonna say write them down. Definitely check them out.
Yeah, I will. I will rewatch this and just like keep that in my notes.
Yeah,
Thank
exactly.
you so much for being on the podcast
Yeah,
today. And guys, thank you so much for watching.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Everybody subscribe, like, follow us, do the whole thing. Follow We Love Philly. And thank you so much for being here today, Chris.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Daniela.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to Unified Purpose, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest. And to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.